self-sacrificial behavior. One of the most obvious evolutionary explanations for self-sacrificial behavior would be that the behavior increases the productive success of close relatives, even if it might imperil the survival of any given individual. Birds nesting on the ground, for example, are extremely vulnerable to attack from aerial predators. To protect their precious eggs and fluffy fledglings, they will often attempt to distract attackers. A common ploy is to feign a broken wing, dragging the seemingly lifeless appendage as they hobble away, enabling their young to run for cover. Some species go for a simpler method, screeching and squawking to attract attention. The wildest of them pretend to be another species altogether, ideally one that is delectable to predators. Delectable to predators. My favorite example of this is the distraction display of a tiny Australasian bird known as the superb fairy wren. True to its name, the male of the species has a splendid iridescent blue crown. Iridescent blue crown, cheek and upper back painted into a raven black frame. It is easy to imagine why European settlers likened them to fairies. When their young are threatened, they will adopt a strange behavior on the ground, creeping around in peculiar darting movements and squeaking in a way that, to a hungry predator, appears exactly like a succulent mouse. Some social mammals undertake similarly impressive acts of heroism for their brothers and sisters, as well as for their own offspring. For example, in wolf packs and prides of lions, individuals will also fight bravely to protect their siblings. All these behaviors evolved because they increase the chances that the hero's genes will be passed on, if not by their own productive efforts, then through the mating success of their closest relatives. According to the American-born Russian physicist turned theoretical biologist Sergei Gavrilets, however, there's another possible way in which self-sacrificial behavior could evolve, one that doesn't require such close genetic bonds. In 2014, Gavrilets came to give a talk at my department in Oxford, in which he described the evolution of a genetic tendency to cooperate in situations of conflict both within and between groups. His core idea was that cooperation among unrelated individuals could be conditioned on shared past experiences rather than genetic kinship. This idea excited me because I had already developed a theory that shared experiences played a central role in the psychology of violent self-sacrifice, based on my observation in New Guinea, Libya, and other regions of the world. A theory that we will get onto in the movement, but the piece of the puzzle still missing was how that psychology evolved in the first place. After his lecture, Gavrilets and I continued talking, and our conversation continued over the months that followed. This led to the development of an agent-based model that could help to explain the evolution of extreme self-sacrifice among warrior tribes facing daunting threats to their survival. Daunting. Agent-based models are computer simulations of how various agents, in this case humans, might behave in a world where assorted parameters such as source availability, competition, or even weather conditions can vary. Such models can help us to explore how different variables and their interactions lead to a range of observable outcomes. Our model was set up in a virtual space equivalent to a region of the rainforest of Papua New Guinea, populated by many district groups, each comprising the population that could bear offspring and therefore increase in size or suffer mortal losses, resulting in a reduction in the size of the group. Each group in this landscape faced two kinds of external threats: enemy groups, raiding by hostile neighbors, and environmental challenges such as natural disaster. For example, earthquakes, pestilence, malaria. Both threats could result in untimely deaths of group members, depleting the population, perhaps even causing the groups to die out altogether. Crucially, however, the two kinds of threats were not identical from an evolutionary perspective. Any loss in warfare counted as a gain to rival groups in an imaginary landscape, because it increased their relative strength. On the other hand, losses caused by natural disasters did not automatically benefit rival groups, or at least not to the same extent. All the individuals in this model were assigned a particular way of behaving in these conditions. The first group were assigned a pair of genes that made them more likely to cooperate when things were going well, success in war, or a favorable environment. The second group was assigned genes that made them more likely to cooperate after negative group experience, loss in war, or a natural disaster. Gavrilates ran many simulations of this model to see which groups became more cooperative and which did not in the face of the randomly changing fortunes. The results were striking. Some groups inevitably suffer more fitness-reducing events, experiences that negatively impacted their ability to survive and pass on their genes, and these were the groups that ended up being more cooperative than those suffered less. What's more, these positive effects on cooperativeness were stronger when shared sufferings resulted from intergroup conflicts than from natural disaster. In short, doing badly made the group pull together more tightly. This model helped to explain why heroism in battle, despite its deadly consequences for the hero, could have become embedded in our evolved psychology. It showed how shared suffering came to be a potent bonding agent. Increasing our willingness to defend the group, whatever the cost.